Hello all, my name is CS Vachindu. I am a practicing company secretary from Pune. ये स्टार्टअप होते क्या है? हमेशा ये सवाल हमें पूछा जाता है कि what are the types of startups and what is this startup word all about? So today here I am to explain you all what are the types of startups और ये startups होते क्या है. So in India we have 6 types of business registrations which we can do to form a startup. First one is the sole proprietorship. Second one is the partnership firm. Third one is the OPC, that is the one person company. Fourth one is the limited liability partnership, which we commonly call as LLP. Fifth one is the most favorite and most sought for is the private limited company. And the sixth one is public limited company. So let's go to the first category of a startup, which is the sole proprietorship. The one person who single-handedly runs his business is called sole proprietorship. अब ये sole proprietor क्या होता है? जो अकेला बिजनेस करता है, खुद से बिजनेस करता है, बिजनेसेस के रिस्क खुद उठाता है और उसके प्रॉफिट्स भी खुद अर्न करता है और एंजॉय भी करता है, उसे सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप कहते हैं. सो सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप में ये होता है कि आपके पास फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होती है अपना खुद का बिजनेस अपनी तरह से रन करने का, बट येस द कैपिटल यू कंट्रीब्यूट इज ऑल्सो लिमिटेड, and the risk is also very high. So let's understand some advantages of sole proprietorship. So as we can see that sole proprietorship easy to form. कुछ नहीं करने का, सिर्फ एक उद्यम रजिस्ट्रेशन MSME रजिस्ट्रेशन करने का and you can start your own business. There are very few government regulations to it, like the income tax return you need to file for a sole proprietorship is from your own PAN only. Third one, जो भी कुछ आपके प्रॉफिट्स होंगे वो आपके खुद के होंगे, सो यू कैन एंजॉय 100% ऑफ योर प्रॉफिट्स. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द डिसएडवांटेजेस ऑफ अ सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप. द फर्स्ट एंड द इम्पोर्टेंट डिसएडवांटेज इज दैट द लायबिलिटी इज अनलिमिटेड. जैसे आपके प्रॉफिट्स अनलिमिटेड हो सकते हैं वैसे भी आपके लॉसेस भी अनलिमिटेड हो सकते हैं. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ अ सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप. सेकेंड वन, कैपिटल इज लिमिटेड. आप जो भी कैपिटल इन्वेस्ट करेंगे आप खुद से ही होगा, so it will be very limited and that can be also a disadvantage. The third disadvantage which we can think of, that your own brain is working for the business idea, your own startup. A combined efforts of all the partners is missing in a sole proprietorship. The second type of business registration is a partnership firm, commonly known as a firm, which is very common in फैमिली में हम देखते हैं हमारे यार खुद की एक फर्म है, जो फर्म बोलते हैं वो पार्टनरशिप फर्म होती है. Now this partnership firm is easy to form. So the advantages of such partnership firm is like easy to formation. The process of forming a partnership firm is very easy and the government fees and the other fees are very low. So two persons coming together can easily form a partnership firm and start their own business. सेकेंड पॉइंट इज कैपिटल जनरेशन. जब 2-3 लोग एक साथ आएंगे तो बड़ा कैपिटल बना सकेंगे और बड़ा बिजनेस भी बनेगा. थर्ड पॉइंट, इजी रेगुलेशंस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. जस्ट लाइक सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप, गवर्नमेंट टैक्सेस एंड गवर्नमेंट रेगुलेशंस आर प्रिटी इजी ऑन पार्टनरशिप फर्म ऑल्सो. नाउ फॉलोइंग आर द डिसएडवांटेजेस ऑफ अ पार्टनरशिप फर्म. व्हेन 2 to 3 पीपल कम टुगेदर, झगड़े तो होंगे, सो that can be a disadvantage like it's an advantage. Like जब 2-3 लोग एक साथ आएंगे कैपिटल रेज कर सकेंगे, आइडियाज चर्न होंगी और उसके साथ झगड़े भी होंगे, सो दैट इज अ डिसएडवांटेज. सेकंड डिसएडवांटेज, डिफिकल्टी ऑफ ट्रांसफर ऑफ ओनरशिप. जब भी कोई फर्म 2-3 लोग एक साथ फॉर्म करते हैं और एक बंदे को अगर बाहर पढ़ना हो तो उसे काफ़ी डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है बाहर पढ़ना, सो दैट इज ऑल्सो अ डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ अ पार्टनरशिप फर्म. थर्ड डिसएडवांटेज वी कैन इजीली थिंक ऑफ लैक ऑफ हार्मनी अमंग पार्टनर्स. जब हम 3 लोग 4 लोग एक साथ आके बिजनेस करेंगे तो मेरी आइडिया दूसरी हो सकती है, आपकी आइडिया दूसरी हो सकती है और तीसरे बंदे की आइडिया दूसरी हो सकती है. सो लैक ऑफ हार्मनी कैन बी अ डिसएडवांटेज इन अ पार्टनरशिप फर्म. So let's go to the third concept or the third startup, which is the OPC, one person company. Companies Act 2013 introduced many new concepts. One such game changer concept was one person company. It has the flexibility of a sole proprietorship and it has the advantages of a limited liability partnership also. Section 2, subsection 62 of Companies Act 2013 explains about the one person company. So, let's discuss the main advantages of a one person company. So, first one, we can say that it is similar to sole proprietorship, where one single person starts his own company and his liability is also limited. So his losses are not unlimited. They are limited to the capital introduced by the person. The third advantage we can think of, it has a flexibility of management and the tax structure and government norms are very flexible and very nominal also. Following are the disadvantages of a one person company. Of course, the one person company is taxed at a higher rate as relative to sole proprietorship. Second one, the capital raising factor of a sole proprietorship is very similar to the OPC. It is difficult to raise capital for a single person to run a business. Third one, management also becomes sometimes difficult as when the business grows, you single-handedly cannot run the whole business. So that can also be and turn into a disadvantage once the business grows. So let's just say that a OPC is very useful for a small business, but it is not useful for a growing business. So the fourth type of startup is the limited liability partnership, commonly called as LLP. LLP is now becoming popular among entrepreneurs as it enjoys the flexibility of a partnership firm with a limited liability. You must remind that we had discussed partnership firm where the liability of the partners is very much unlimited. The losses can be unlimited and the personal liability of those partners can be also attached in a partnership firm. This thing was negated with a LLP Act where the new form of entity was introduced, that is we call it as a limited liability partnership. The name itself suggests you the limited liability partnership. Following are the advantages of a limited liability partnership. First and the main advantage for which this entity was formed is limited liability of partners. The liability of every partner in a LLP is very much limited to their capital contribution introduced in the LLP. Second is easy profit sharing. Just like partnership firm, the profit sharing between partners of a LLP is very easy. It's distributed among the partners. The profit is very much distributed every year among the partners. Third point, easy formation and low cost of compliance. The LLP can be formed very easily with very minimal procedures and the compliance cost which arise every year is also limited. So following are the disadvantages of the limited liability partnership. First one, the LLP is not yet recognized as private limited company with the foreign investors. Second one, all the public documents of the LLP can be searched on a public portal. Third one, fundraising is also a small limitation with the LLP these days also. Next comes the most beloved startup in India, the private limited company. Most sought for and the simplest form of startup is a private limited company. With its national and international recognition, a startup and a private limited company both go hand in hand, as if the word startup is and was made for a private limited company only. So, most of the startups you see in India are in form of a private limited company. Under the Companies Act 2013, this private limited company is formed. This is a unique entity with its own PAN number. So we can say that this is a unique entity which can own property, which can do business, which can have profits, which can open a bank account and which can be called as a formal startup. Following are the advantages of a private limited company. Advantage number one, separate legal existence and separate corporate identity. A private limited is वो अलग होता है अपने डायरेक्टर से, अपने सब्सक्राइबर से. वो एक खुद की एंटिटी होती है, खुद का एक पैन होता है. सो इट holds a separate legal existence in market. The second advantage, limited liability. डायरेक्टर्स या फिर सब्सक्राइबर्स की लायबिलिटी हमेशा लिमिटेड होती है उनके कैपिटल इंट्रोडक्शन तक. जो भी कुछ कैपिटल उन्होंने अंदर लाया है तब तक उनकी लायबिलिटी लिमिटेड होती है. थर्ड एंड द कॉमन एडवांटेज ऑफ अ प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी इज गुड फंडिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज. बैंक्स, investors, venture capitalists, and government all recognize private limited as the best startup. So their doors are open for every funding opportunity they can get for a private limited company. Fourth advantage, which we can easily think of, the credibility of this private limited company in the minds of debtors, creditors, and external stakeholders. All these guys are confident when you have a private limited company of your own to do business. Fifth and the common point which we can tell is that perpetual succession. This private limited company can run till perpetuity. Directors, subscribers change, the next directors come, the next subscribers come, but the private limited company goes on and on. Following are the very few disadvantages of a private limited company. One which we can say that restriction to the transfer of shares. This is a technical term where the shares transferability is restricted to the some extent, not we can say to the very much extension, but yes, transfer of shares can have restriction in a private limited company. Another disadvantage which we can think of, that the members are limited to 200. This disadvantage is solved in a public limited company. Another disadvantage is withdrawing of profits. Sometimes it becomes difficult in a private limited company to withdraw the profits, but of course the directors and the subscribers and the other people are very much remunerated when a private limited company earns good profits. Another disadvantage which we can think of, higher compliance costs, but this can be negated with the name and the fame a private limited company gets as a startup. So we can say that startup और प्राइवेट लिमिटेड नाम एक साथ जुड़े हुए हैं एंड एवरी स्टार्टअप विच बिकम्स अ प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी the next type of startup can be a public limited company. Now generally when some entrepreneur starts his business, he doesn't directly go and form a public limited company. So to call it as a startup can be a bit confusing. But yes, public limited company is a large organization where this company demands money from public through issuing their own shares. This company is very much at the advantageous position when it comes to capital borrowing and everything. The banks, the investors are readily standing there to give funds to such public limited company. So let's discuss the advantages of public limited company. First advantage is perpetual succession. ये public limited company कभी मर नहीं सकती. That means it has a perpetual succession of its own. It has a different entity, different identity of its own. Second advantage is unlimited growing opportunity. Shareholders से पैसा borrow करके company grow कर सकती है to the unlimited extent. If you can remember the movie Guru, where Abhishek Bachchan acting on the role of Dhirubhai Ambani, where Reliance goes to the IPO, he calls for a meeting in the stadium. उतने shareholders उनके होते हैं कि meeting stadium में लेनी पड़ती है. Just remember the scene of Guru. The third advantage can be capital borrowing capacity. The public limited company has a huge capital borrowing capacity of its own, where they can borrow funds from banks, financial institutions, NBFCs, and other lenders and investors also. Another advantage to discuss is freely transferability of shares. As we have seen in a private limited company, shares transfers can be difficult, but in a public limited company, the transfer of shares can be easily done and freely done. So let's take an example of a listed company. All the listed companies in stock market are public limited company only. For example, Reliance Industries. It is one of the biggest company in stock market India, where the shares holders of Reliance company can easily transfer their shares. आप भी शेयर ट्रेडिंग करते होगे, सो शेयर्स जब भी आप रिलायंस के परचेस करते हो उसके शेयर्स आप बेच भी सकते हो आपके अकाउंट में से. सो इट्स दैट इजी टू transact shares of a public limited company. There are few disadvantages also of a public limited company. Lack of secrecy is the first disadvantage. All the financial documents of a public limited company are easily available on the public portal. So this can be an advantage also and can be disadvantage also. The second disadvantage is we can say that it is suitable for the large businesses only, as the compliance cost of running a public limited company is very high. So लार्ज बिजनेसेस के लिए ये बहुत अच्छा है, पर जो स्मॉल एंटरप्रेन्योर्स है, जो स्मॉल नए स्टार्टअप्स है, उनके लिए पब्लिक लिमिटेड सूट नहीं करती. सो दिस ब्रिंग्स अस टू द एंड ऑफ टाइप्स ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स. सो देयर आर 6 टाइप्स ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशंस व्हिच वी कैन डू इन इंडिया. बट डू यू नो दिस startups fail or pass? How many startups pass? How many startups fail in India? How many of them are registered? How many becomes unicorn? Unicorn नाम आपने सुना होगा. How many of them get an IPO in a stock exchange? That is, how many of them gets listed in a stock exchange? Very few. Why? Sustainability is a serious issue with startup these days. Now, what is sustainability? Sustainability is an ability to maintain something at a certain rate or level. That is, जब भी स्टार्टअप शुरू होते हैं, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, यंग इन्वेस्टर्स आर इनटू जोश. दे आते हैं और बोलते हैं सर मुझे स्टार्टअप शुरू करना है, मेरे पास ये आइडियाज़ है, मेरे पास ये इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, एंड दीज आर आवर प्रोजेक्शंस, दीज आर आवर प्रॉफिट्स एंड दीज आर आवर टर्नओवर्स. ये फिगर्स, ये इन्वेस्टर्स, ये सब अच्छे लगते हैं, शुरुआत में वो आसान भी लगता है, बट डू दीज स्टार्टअप्स मेंटेन देम एट अ सर्टन लेवल ईयर बाय ईयर? सो sustainability is an issue with the startups where they cannot maintain the certain level of profitability, certain level of turnover year to year, and that needs to be discussed. So let's sum up this video. We have 6 types of business registrations in India which we can do and start our own business. स्टार्टअप आपके हिसाब से आप चूज करो कौन सा बिजनेस रजिस्ट्रेशन आपको लेने का है. Every business registration has its own advantages and disadvantages. So once again, I would like to thank Finopt Consulting for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge about startups and the types of startups. Thank you, Finopt. Thank you all.